How's everyone doing today? I hope all of you are having a very wonderful day today. Understand, this is a story about tragedy, well spoken grammar, and a story that you might like. Please understand, this is only part one of many to understand. I will be making this story over the course of a year, maybe more. But I will show off each character and their things one after the other. The first character we're starting with is one of the main characters, Fear. Technically, his title, the first royal judge, or Judge of the Eclipse. He does use a katana, but he does not fight the player or frisk with the blade in his phase 1. He just parries, not wanting to hurt the child that he swore to not kill. His story starts before Frisk, way before. His story starts with a childhood that's less than loving. His parents loved him, but his village was, in less than good words, very discriminatory towards monsters and humans. They hated hybrids, which is him and his brothers. We'll get into his brothers in a moment. But he never had any hatred for humanity at this point in time. He loved people. He loved everyone. He was a very good child. To everyone, he was a nice kid. To some, he was a villain. He got his nickname Fear way later on. But please understand, his nickname came out of a fear that they had of him, not of his fear of them. So, please understand. He doesn't hate people in the current story. It's just he has a distrust. So please give him some slack. Now I will continue. He doesn't. When he was a child, he was excited to be a big brother. He went there to the hospital, kicking his feet, being a good kid. He cared for his brothers, loving them all the time, anytime he could. He taught them how to use magic. He helped them fight, helped them in school. He might be 1 year older than them, but he was so good with them when he was younger. He took care of them, had everything with them. It was rather fun for him. But that's when tragedy struck. Something attacked their village. They helped, they fought, they got out of there. But there's one little thing. Their mother and their father were veterans of the monster and human war. They fell in love during it, ran away. But they knew their peace wouldn't last so long. So they made their children weapons, like the weapon on his hip currently. His katana, he named Hedora, Hydra in Japanese. His two brothers had different weapons, which we'll get into once their videos are made. But Fear went off to college when he was old enough. And he stayed there for about 2 years, learning everything he could about souls and everything else. He already knew what his magic was, but he never talked about it with anyone. He never explained his background, nothing. When he came back home for summer, he noticed something. Everyone was quiet when he got there. His hood was up, so people didn't know who he was, but they were quiet. Much more quiet than anything else. And he got worried. He wanted to know where his brothers were. He wanted to know where everyone was. So, he went looking. He went to his childhood home. The door was unlocked, cracked even. When he opened the door, he's seen a very cruel scene in front of him. I won't get into the details, but there was bodies there, blood drenching the floor. It looked like a very bad struggle. Understand, he knew his parents weren't gonna go down without a fight. So he checked the bodies. They're cold, ice cold. So they've been there for a while. He checked around, making sure not to step in any bits of anything. He searched around, calling his brother's names just to check. He kept his sword at his hip. He walked upstairs, checking each and every room until he got to his room. He opened the door, and he almost vomited immediately. He saw maggots and other things sprawled across his room. I won't give you the full details of what he's seen, but it was enough to make him hate humanity with every fiber of his being, with every molecule in his soul. So he ran, but before he left the village, he wanted to do one act of justice his parents would have smiled at him for, but he knew he'd go to hell for it, but he didn't care. He went to the middle of the town, yelling at all of them. They all look at him, fear in their eyes, knowing this day would come. But he didn't care. He looked at them, his eyes crazed, his right eye turning red and blue as his left turned black, yellow, and orange. As he finally understood why they called him that nickname, the fear they had over him finally snapping. He did snap. Like no other. He snapped his fingers, for the first time summoning his blasters. And he mauled all of them down, cutting them down, making it torturous for all of them. He didn't spare a single soul, not a child, not a teenager, not even old people. He spared no person, no nothing. All of them were lambs to the slaughter to him at that point. Nothing could stop him from his anger, his anguish, his pain, his sorrow, all of it mixing together in one final goodbye to those people who hurt him. He went up Mount Ebott, wanting to die, not wanting to stay anymore. He climbed up the mountain and fell head first, not wanting to feel this sorrow, not wanting to feel this pain anymore. And he fell on the bed of flowers. That's where his story mostly ends, until the series actually comes out. I hope all of you do like that. But understand, this next part is more about his abilities, which I will show you. Give me a moment, please. Now that we're back, we'll start with his moves. Mainly, his weapon. We'll start with his M1s. His M1s do no damage, mostly. They're mainly to start combos or other things. He's mainly holding back for a very good reason with his blade. His first move, flaming slashes. Well, this move is a charge into strikes, as I'll demonstrate. That turns the opponent on fire, that has a 10 loop. This move does not do a lot of damage. It does a very small bit. just warn you, all these moves in his first phase do burn damage, except for his other 4 moves. His starter 4 all do burn damage. So please, understand that. His second move, Twin Judgment, is another charge. And less damage in general. With all of these, you can move around while you're stunned, to make it more fair. But there's a caveat to that I'll explain later. That move is mainly to extend a combo or grab you when you're trying to run, but these moves all can be cancelled. Certain moves cannot be cancelled. Keep that in mind, please. And his third move, Royal Twin. That does burn damage and does 20 damage. Which that is a combo extender that does a decent amount of burn. But for his 4th skill, Destruction Strikes, it is the most lenient skill he has. So please, let me demonstrate. It does the most amount of damage out of all 4 of his abilities. But understand, he has 2 more phases after this. So please, don't get me twisted. His first phase is rather good, because each one of these moves give him mode. And you'll see why later. But a combo would be rather simple. So please, I will demonstrate a combo for you. That does half of your health with barely any burn. Burn does not stack, and each one of those attacks have different cooldowns, as you can see. But we'll get into his other 4 abilities in a moment. Okay, now let's get into his other 4 abilities. Understand, these abilities are much more magic focused. His 5th ability, Soul Strings, grabs the target's soul with magical strings and throws them. There's multiple different versions. His version of that and a jump version. But there's also a fast-paced version. Yep. It does actually require a decent amount of timing. It's a combo extender or starter. It helps the person with that. It doesn't do a lot of damage, as you can see, for all those versions. Now, we'll start with his 6th ability, his Hydro Blasters. They have 2 different variants, a charge and a 3 burst. All of them come at 3 different times. Okay? Now, it has a little bit of wind up. They are slightly based on Sans' blasters, because it took inspiration from him. I'll get into that later, upon lore. But there's a jumping version. Well, in the air, actually. That sends you back. I didn't get him in the range, but takes as long as the blasters are here, and sends you back. For his 7th ability is his grab, which you M1 and then you grab them. These moves do a decent amount of damage, but they're not gonna kill you, if anything. But there is also an air variant. Using an ability that I will explain in a moment, but his bar drains with his magic. Every single one of these moves drain his magic. Hydro Blaster Catalyst is his most powerful version, not for damage, but for speed. I'll demonstrate. It's basically instant. And there's an air variant that doesn't require a grab.
You probably think Squarespace is just for website.
My apologies. But also, all of these do take quite a lot of mode. But I was going to explain something about this variant. And the air variant of Gas Blaster Catalyst, or Hydro Blaster. Because his Q is a dash. Well, kind of. It's a teleport. Which is instant. That is him using his power of save and load, or just teleportation if you want to make it simple. I'll explain this to you in a simple term. He's basically using his powers in a way of manipulating his molecules. It's kind of simple but also very strenuous. He's basically using the power of save and load mixed with his magic to teleport. And there's other variants, such as an air and a back. But I'll show you a full combo with all of his current moves. You don't exactly have to use but each one of his blaster moves can be cancelled except for Hydro Blasters. His Soul Strings can be cancelled, and all of these moves take energy, as you can see. And there are several different modes he has. There's a multitude of them, but that will be explained in a moment. Okay, folks, understand. His awakening, or rune, as I call it, requires him to get hit. So please, do bear. His first move, a slam, and it does do damage to yourself. These very much they do a I did have to get myself. These moves do damage to yourself and they take round, as you can see. Let me summon some Anyways, his fourth skill is pure hyper armor, but it's rather cool. And it does which it does really, really a ton of damage. That's why it has a 40-second cooldown. But they all have an effect to them that does a decent amount of damage. Basically one-shots anyone. But also, there's another form, which I will now turn on this, so you can actually still hear some music in the background for all of you at home. Now, his sword form, which is pure blade. Still does a lot of damage, but this form heals you. It heals you, and it does a lot of damage. Mostly. But a combo would look very, very similar. And it probably would kill you, but I'll show you. But there is another variant I need to show you. For Hydro Blasters, if you're jumping, there's a 4-blaster variant that does a lot of moves. So, I'm going to show you a combo. Because I had to kill that dummy. Okay. Like I said, I'll explain to you how his magic fully works. So, let's start. His magic is fire and destruction, both sides of human and monster. One side he suffocates until it's dead under the water. The other he lets flourish and brighten. You can make your prediction. I don't mind. But understand, it's more more complicated than you think. Two sides of a hybrid, even if they're suffocated, still flourish in some of their outbursts. I can give you a small example for a little bit of lore until the series comes out. One example is when they're fighting. Their words slur. Anger starts to flourish in their speech as they become more wild when attacking, more unpredictable. So that's rather funny to me. Because his magic is good to him, but it still hurts him. His destruction, I mean. His destruction is the culmination of his human side. Everything he hates, everything he loves about them. And yet, no monster ever cast him away for it. They kind of honored him for having the spirit to still use his magic, even if it hurt him. But the reason his blasters and his strings are kind of like sands is because at a kind of young age, 16, he was kind of adopted by both brothers. And there's a bit more lore I would tell you, but it spoils a very much ton of it. So don't get too antsy. Once each character's story comes out, in little parts, your minds will understand that it would be rather fun. But let's get more into the technical side of his skill set. His passives. He passively heals mode. He's taller and faster than most people or characters. But that comes with a caveat of his damage being subpar, lower, for every move when he's in his base. In his awakened state, his damage goes back to normal, to where it's a decent bit. But also, understand, I'm going to give you a little bit more lore on his blasters and him as a character. So, just give me a little second. As a person, fear is calm and collected in battle. If you piss him off, he might get a little bit vulgar, but he's still very collected in a battle, even if it's a battle of wit. His jacket has a heart symbol on the back, which is his actual soul. Not his actual soul, because it's in his chest, but it's his actual soul color. Red and blue. The left side being blue and the right side being red. But there is a little thing about that where it's actually kind of funny. Because let's just say his blasters weren't fully modeled after the comedian's blasters. They were modeled after something much more significant to fear. Most of his magic is modeled after some things of his past that will be explained in the actual story whenever that comes out or whenever we finish every map. But it'll be fun, won't it? I hope you wait until then, people. But until then, I hope all of you have a good day or night whenever you're watching this. And I hope all of you know that you're loved and cherished. So please, have a good day. People love you, care for you. Understand. I care about you. I'll be signing off. So please, have have a lovely time wherever